Okay, welcome to Into the Channel podcast primarily about women's football. I'm your host, Dino Decespedes, and as always, I am joined by my co-host, Mr. Grant Engle. What is up, man?
Buddy, I'm feeling fantastic. We have made it to match week 26
Let's go.
of the NWSL, one of the premier football leagues in the world. And just a little ASMR for everybody. Just feeling like Birdman, just rubbing the hands together, just ready to get into this decision day.
Let's go. Yeah. Let's we need to get off. What is it? Decision day is like that's the official title, right?
I think so. I don't know. Is it official?
The official, unofficial
title.
People
call it.
I think I heard it. I saw it come across in a press release. We got to do better than this. We're not going to crack this nut on this show, but it might be something that we have solved in the next. But by the time we circle back with our next Into the NWSL episode, but tons of stakes tied to match week 26. A lot of playoff machinations. A big glob in the middle of the standings. A lot of different spots that teams can finish in, and just a lot of moving parts to this weekend. I'm really excited to get into it with you, just because I needed like a little bit of a primer myself in terms of like going to match week 26. What's at stake here? What am I watching for? All of these matches but one are happening at the same time, which introduces an interesting quirk in and of itself. But Sunday's going to be wild, and I'm excited for it. And I want to break everything down. I want to make sure we know what's at stake, what can happen, and we want to make sure that all of our friends know what can happen as well.
I think that makes sense. I mean, look, do you tune in to this program for amazing predictions? You might. Dino and I have been known to have several in our day. You know, some predictions miss, but we're not here to talk about that. We're not going to dwell on any of that. There's so much going on. Let's just talk about the machinations. Let's talk about what we want to see, what we may see, and just kind of keep it pushing like that. I've been on the hunt. Pre-production, I'll take you guys behind the curtain. I've been on the hunt for some gambling odds. I cannot find any. I'm gonna have to look, for a back alley bookie. There's maybe some NBA players I can call to discuss that with. That's another show. That's another topic. We'll figure that out. But let's get into it, man. Let's talk. Yeah, who knows? I've been known to play some Texas Hold'em too, so we'll see if I'm looking for a poker game. But no, honestly though, free Scary Terry, free Big Shot Billups immediately. But let's get into the NWSL before I take us way too far into left field.
Let's crack a beer.
Let's do it.
Cheers to staying above the law.
Cheers to doing everything responsibly, whether it's maybe having a beverage, maybe it's gambling responsibly, maybe it's keeping your mouth shut when it's time to keep your mouth shut responsibly, all things that we care very deeply about. As two men hosting a podcast, there's nothing more we know about than keeping our mouths shut when the time comes.
That's right. Look at all this wisdom my guys spewing out here. I want to get started with what used to be the ITC Derby. Still maybe a little the ITC Derby of the heart, possibly.
Spiritually.
The Orlando Pride hosting your Seattle Reign. This one, major stakes. You look at the table here. So Orlando's in third, Seattle's in fourth. 1 point separates the two. A win guarantees Orlando the 3 seed. That's what's at stake for them. Orlando can fall all the way down to 7th, though. If they lose, obviously Seattle gets a win, Portland gets a win, Gotham gets a win. So that's a pretty wide band. Even if they draw, Orlando could fall down to 6th or could stay as high as 3rd. So this team that we were a little bit afraid of potentially falling out of the playoff mix, to have 3 through 6 ish, kind of be where we think they're going to finish as high as 3. I'm pretty surprised that Orlando was able to kind of get things back on track, even though they didn't blow the doors off with any of those late season results, but did enough to kind of get themselves into a good spot here.
Such a good point by you. Orlando Pride, 3 wins, 1 draw, 1 loss in their last 5. They were just on a horrendous run there for a while, where it didn't look like they could score. It didn't look like they had an identity after the Barbara Benda injury. and they were just searching for answers. And it appears that Marta playing better and just generally them kind of starting to gel. Lisbeth Ovalle coming online a little bit, kind of starting to get familiar with the squad a little bit. Turns out that's a recipe to turn things around as you hit the end of the season. And now they have a home match where they control their destiny to finish top three.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, I think Oyane Hernandez got to get a shout out too for
sure.
Just getting way incorporated into the offense. And I think we talked a few weeks back about Seb Hines going full, science experiment with the back half of the season. That Oyane move to kind of put the ball into her, and not into her hands, but get the ball more to Oyane, like way more than they had been to that point. I think that move worked out brilliantly. She's been really valuable for them offensively. Seattle, though, the team heading to Orlando on not a bullshit flight. That's a long trip. Those are a lot of miles getting logged. And then you obviously get an early in the day start. I think 2 p.m. Pacific, I think 5 p.m. Eastern are most of these tips. So, or kickoffs. Not crazy.
No,
I'm in NBA mode. Obviously, you got me all riled up. But what can Seattle expect here? Obviously, a win gets them the 3 seed. So they've got a ton to play for. And the 3 seed, muy importante, because it allows you to avoid that one team in Kansas City until possibly the final. So you want to be in that 2-3 spot if you can. So where you get the home playoff match, you get to avoid the current, and ideally get to stay alive for as long as possible. But Seattle, what can they expect here?
Very intrigued. What I would say is when I spoke with Seattle Reign FC manager Laura Harvey after the Utah Royals victory, because I am who I am, I had to bring up to her, hey, look, last year, the club transferred Sofia Huerta over to Lyon on September 12th. You then proceeded to lose 6 of the last 7 matches. To which, as I'm saying that in the setup of my question, Laura Harvey looks at me and says, thanks, Grant. Because obviously she was very happy that I reminded her of that. But I asked her, what is, aside from Huerta being on the squad, they're finishing the season much stronger. They are 2 wins, 2 draws, 1 loss in their last 5. And just look miles better than they looked at the end of last season, obviously. I asked her what the biggest difference was. And, she cited the influx of young talent. There was no Sally Menti last year. There was no Maddie Dahlian last year. There was no Sam Meza. They were kind of just they were struggling through some injuries, and they just couldn't do anything offensively. I think they still have some of those attacking struggles now. But the number one thing that Laura Harvey said, and I don't think it was a bullshit answer, was she said, belief. Is that the team actually has played well enough and has stacked enough results and has done enough through this season to where if they fall a goal down, they actually believe they can come back and score a goal. If they go up by a goal and there's 30 or 35 minutes left in the match, they actually believe they can see it out. There is no kind of overarching doom and gloom with this squad because they've been able to put together the results. And, when Jess Fishlock and Lou Barnes at the post-game press conference, they kind of chuckled because when I formulated my question to them, I said, hey, I thought Laura Harvey made an interesting point that even when you don't play well, you can still get a result. And I could tell, obviously, me, some dude sitting in the press conference telling Jess Fishlock and Lou Barnes they didn't play well. They probably, they probably get a little bit of a kick out of that, but that's what their manager said. So, Seattle should have the belief that they can go down to Orlando and get a result. And I'm glad you mentioned the flight, not a bullshit flight. And if I had to guess, the longest possible flight you could take in the NWSL from Seattle to Orlando. I'm no geography major, but that's probably right. I
like it.
I think Seattle has to believe they can get a victory, but they're going up against champions. They're going up against the double holders. And, there's no Barbara Banda, yes, but that DNA is still in that squad. So I think it's going to end up being a hell of a game.
I think it's going to be a really good game, too. Seattle's the kind of team that is in every, it seems seemingly in every match, even if they're down a couple goals and the result is not looking likely, they don't really get washed any week. They play really tough. That belief
Yep.
definitely shines through. Um, I'm not sure a win is not on the table this this weekend for Seattle. With all that said, I
Yeah.
think I think Orlando is in full let's defend mode, and obviously there's some injuries down the, like there's just so many things that can happen down the stretch, and it's just 3 wins. Like once you get into the playoffs, and if you are Orlando and you do get one of those three at home, and the finals obviously on a neutral field, I think they're going to be tough to beat on Sunday. I mean, I think a draw is for sure on the table, especially if Orlando stalls out and Seattle's so good defensively. But there's a lot to play for, and I love that these two teams are in the 3-4 slot. So obviously we'll be locked into this one, and I'm excited that both these teams will be in the playoffs. That's going to make for some fun. The next match I want to talk about, though, big stakes in this one as well. The team in 9th currently, North Carolina Courage, will be hosting the team currently in 7th, Gotham FC. Now, the Courage, this is the textbook definition of a must win. They must win to stay alive.
Love a must win.
We're here, bro. We made it.
Mm-hmm.
and Courage needs Louisville to lose or draw to secure the 8th seed. Now, the Courage have a better goal differential advantage. So if Louisville does draw to Bay FC, Courage is definitely in business. Gotham now, they can jump all the way up to 4th with a win and an Orlando-Seattle non-draw. So they need somebody to win that match, and they need San Diego loss, and they need a Portland loss, and Gotham can get up to 4th. Realistically, they'll probably finish in the 6, 7, 8 range, and they can fall down to 8th potentially if they lose and Racing gets a win. So this Courage Gotham FC match is going to be another banger. A team that Gotham started slow, got hot, cooled off a little bit, and the Courage not really ever able to find their way, although maybe very, very recently there's something to get excited about for Courage fans. They've been on a little bit of a nice mini run here. Anything that you're going to be, I mean, this is going to be a banger of a matchup. It's almost impossible to kind of predict. I really just kind of want to sit back and watch it. But what's your take on these two teams?
I just don't think it's sneaky at this point. Manaka Matsukubo is in the MVP race. 10 goals.
Oh, let's go.
10 goals, 4 assists. Coming on hot lately. We've talked about her. I mean, she's a brilliant young player. What a moment it would be for her to really kind of make this happen and clinch a playoff spot, even if it is, a spot to then take on Kansas City Current. I mean, it'll be interesting to see. This is why you watch sports. You watch for these kind of must-win scenarios. These like lay it all on the line, can't hold anything back. How many cliches can we rattle off in the matter?
Leave it all in the field.
Of 30 seconds to leave it all on the field.
How much percentage do you think they're going to give today?
I would, if I had to guess, 110%.
Gotta be minimum.
Minimum 110. So yeah, man, and the Bats, I gotta say about them, man, like there was a portion where like, and rightfully so, look out for Gotham FC. They were on an absolute tear there for a while. They were up. I think they climbed as high as 3rd or 4th in the table at one point. In their last 5, they're 1 win, 3 draws, 1 loss in these last 5. Just kind of like a weird set of circumstances. And, they got to feel like they're playing for something because, they're sitting on 36 points. And, like you said, they'll jump to 4th with a win and some kind of either non-draw result for Orlando or Seattle. So the Bats have a lot to play for too. I think each team is going to have to come out there and try to throw some haymakers.
Yeah, no doubt. And I mean, Gotham is their season's kind of been like that really nice meal that, either you cooked at home or you ate at the restaurant and you brought home and you forgot to put it in the fridge. You just left it on the counter. It just kind of still there. It's still, maybe it might still be tasty, but it also
Sure.
might be gamey, a little borderline. I think that's kind of where this Gotham season is kind of gone. I want to talk a little bit about the one match that, if I'm reading the schedule correctly, kicks off early, 3 p.m. Eastern, Kansas City Current versus San Diego Wave. Now, Kansas City obviously clinched everything. San Diego, currently in 5th, can move all the way up to 3rd if they win. And again, there's an Orlando-Seattle draw. That bumps San Diego all the way up to 3rd, which would be crazy. They finish in 4th with a win and an Orlando-Seattle not a draw, and they could finish as low as 7th. They've got a pretty solid goal differential advantage. But what makes it tricky is they play KC early. Now, if San Diego loses, Gotham now can play for the draw, and they would ensure that they would jump San Diego because of a better goal differential. So San Diego out of a little bit of a disadvantage playing early. Now, if the Wave draws, Seattle, who's 1 point ahead, would also know this and know that they would then be even on points. San Diego better goal differential advantage. And now Seattle will know what they need to be able to keep 4th and then have that 4 or 5 playoff spot at home, potentially, if that's how it shakes out. So San Diego, a little bit of a disadvantage playing early. Obviously, they're playing KC, with not a ton to play for. But and this Wave side has been super up and down, finishing on a bit of a high note. I'm not sure if it's fool's gold. I'm not sure really what to expect from this side. I remember when the XOG guys were on the show, I kind of made a big deal about thinking that this Wave side would be a tough playoff matchup. And it could be. I mean, if they end up in that 4 or 5 spot going to Seattle, I mean, I could see that match kind of going. I mean, if the Wave do all of the Wave things that they like to do, that could be tricky for Seattle. But, have the Wave kind of sorted anything out here down the stretch? Do you think, the schedule quirk could work against them? What do you think they're going to be dealing with heading into the playoffs here?
So, courtesy of Rachel Palmer of the Equalizer, Temwa Chawinga is nursing an adductor injury. She was obviously helped off the pitch in the team's loss versus Houston Dash last weekend. So I gotta imagine that you just wrap her in bubble wrap. It's not even a consideration. Don't bother. Shield's wrapped up. You get as much rest as you possibly can. She's skipping international duty. And I don't mean this to sound like cold-hearted or whatever or anything like that. Like we wish Temwa Chawinga well. That's a plus for San Diego Wave. It just is what it is, right? So you have that like added piece. I do want to kind of flip the question back to you as an Arsenal supporter, as my favorite Arsenal supporter. Do you trust Jonas Eidevall in a big spot?
No.
I didn't think so.
No. I mean, if I'm betting on them, I'm betting on, Kenza and Dudinya and
Sure.
Cascarino and some of the youngins out there. How about, newly inducted ITC Hall of Famer Kalen Sheridan? Shout out to Jordan Sikowitz for putting forward that nomination. So yeah, I think their ceiling is probably 1 playoff win. I think they could go as far as winning 1. There's no way. I don't want to. I'm not going to here make any crazy proclamations, but there is no way that the San Diego Wave, led by Jonas Eidevall, is beating a team that won an NWSL playoff game in 2025 in the semifinals. It's not happening. So I can see them winning 1. Maybe making the semifinals, get into the Final Four, but they're not going to beat a playoff team to make the final.
Do you trust them to beat Kansas City Current on the final match of the season with no Temwa Chawinga?
I mean, they could win that match. They could win that match for sure. I wouldn't fall out of my chair if they won.
Kansas City.
It's a big win for them if they do. I mean, that puts them on 40 points. The flip side, though, is this a 40-point team? Probably, probably not. So you look at it through that lens.
That's great, yeah.
And this is probably a 37-38 win team. So through that lens, I think maybe a draw might be the best that they can hope for. And that would put them in a good position to kind of like at least avoid 6-7 and slipping too far down the standings heading into the playoffs.
If they get a point and Reign FC loses to Orlando Pride, they will jump up to fourth in the table. I mean, obviously, if Portland Thorns either gets a draw or loses, or if Gotham FC doesn't win. See, there are just a trillion machinations out here. That's why you're tuning into the show. So we'll try to not make it all that confusing. I don't know, man. I think it's a weird spot. I think it's an opportunity for some Kansas City current players to be like, oh yeah, you think so? You think we're cooked? You're like, we lift the shield and then we disappear because of the Temwa Chewinga injury. Yeah, let's see about that. I think it's a weird kind of prove it spot for Kansas City that could be really dangerous for San Diego.
Yeah, and San Diego, not a team that has overcome this stuff in the league as currently constituted. So this isn't a team of, been through it kind of winners. They've won in other places, and then now have kind of reassembled in San Diego. I want to talk a little bit about Portland, because Portland's a little feisty, a little dangerous. Another team that I can see winning a playoff match, no problem. They can finish also as high as third with a win. They'd have to win by 2+ goals versus Houston Dash. That's not out of the realm of possibility. And they need an Orlando-Seattle draw, and then they would need to sort of leapfrog San Diego. So a lot of stuff would have to happen, but third is their ceiling, still on the table. Either way, they're going to kind of I think they're going to come out and hang a pretty big number on Houston. Not a lot to play for. That's a tough team to go against without stakes when they've got the stakes. So I could see Portland notching a win here. That would put them on 40, and then it really just depends on what happens above them. I think that would be huge. That would be huge for them to get to 40 points. That's maybe 30 points more than I expected that they would have this season. Once we learned about the Sophia Wilson, that wouldn't be available this year, and obviously Christine St. Clair moving on and all the different moving parts. But shout out to Portland and what they've got going on this season.
The City of Roses, Rip City. Again, free Chauncey. That's our guy.
That's right.
Look, me especially. I know you were relatively low on Portland. Let me just wear this one. I mean, just full accountability. I was so hilariously wrong about Portland Thorns this year. I was a fool for doing it. This is one of the greatest, franchises in the history of the NWSL. And I was just like, well, I don't know. What are you going to do? You lose Christine St. Clair. You lose Sophie Wilson for the season. I can't remember what the exact numbers were, but we were talking about like nearly 20 goals, nearly like 10 or 15 assists, somewhere in that ballpark. I was like, where are you going to find that? You just going to pull that out of thin air? Kinda. Like they were able to really put together a very nice season. So this team getting to 40 points, it's a great point by you. It'd be an awesome achievement, but it's also one of those things. It's just like, it might be one of those things where you kind of look at it and say, oh yeah, Oklahoma City. I know they won the title last year, but like in the NBA, they're usually like pretty good, where it's just like the Miami Heat. What am I talking? Who am I talking to? What am I doing here?
Let's go.
It's like, oh, what a surprise. The Miami Heat figured out a way to be good. Likewise, what a surprise. The Portland Thorns figured out a way to be good. Sorry, that was such a long journey for me to get there.
No, we made it. I mean, it was about as long as Miami to Portland.
Yeah, pretty much.
I want to talk one more matchup. I mean, I'm fully with you on Portland. I would be 0% shocked if they win a playoff match, and if they finish on another high note, and now everybody's like, we don't want to play. That team that plays really rough, and it seems like they play almost every match on their terms, which is so cool. And definitely every home match is on their terms. It's like pretty awesome to watch. One more match I want to hit. This is the last match to feature a playoff team, or a team with some stakes. That is Racing Louisville taking on Bay FC. So Louisville can technically move up to 5th if they score, like 1 million goals. They're sitting on -4 goal differential. They got a lot of ground to make up, and they're taking on Bay FC. So Not on Silky's watch. I don't predict
No,
any 8 or 9 goals getting made up.
no
So
chance.
Racing Louisville is going to have to do it with points. They're currently sitting on 34. They're not going to be able to catch San Diego or Portland, who are on 37 ahead of them, just because of the goal differential situation. But Gotham's at 36. They can leapfrog Gotham, but they also have a worse goal differential than North Carolina, who's 2 points behind. So Louisville needs a win to ensure the playoff spot. If they draw or lose, they're in real danger. I mean, a draw puts them at 35, and they're one North Carolina win away from being bounced. And I very, the second time I'll mention the XOG guys, but I very loudly proclaimed that Racing Louisville would be a playoff team. They would avoid that 9th spot ranking, for another year and heartbreak for another year. So I'd be a little bit bummed if they missed the playoffs. I think they deserve to be in. They've had really great moments and they're exciting. I think they seem to be able to give teams that are on paper much better than them big problems more often than we would expect. I think they're in a lot of these games and they just win matches that I don't know, that come as a bit of a surprise.
100%. I mean, look, I'm going through the roster here. I just want to make sure. I wanted to make sure that I have the age right. Janine Sonis, Canadian, 31 years old, KG veteran.
Mm-hmm.
Have loved. I've loved her play this year. 5 assists, 3 goals. Emma Sears. Look, we did an episode on the U.S. Women's National Team losing 2-1 to Portugal. You should watch that. It's totally free on YouTube. It doesn't cost you anything. You might as well watch it. Probably hit like on the video if you're into that kind of thing. If you like, I don't know, if you like the U.S. Women's National Team, anybody like them? I thought Emma Sears looked good. Ability to get to the end line, play and passes. She has 10 goals, 2 assists this season. I think sometimes she does things on the pitch where I'm like, holy shit, how good could this player really get? Like her speed, her strength, her shooting ability. There's just a lot to really like about her game. I think you're right. It would be a real bummer. And we're journalists. We have we're looking at this through an objective eye. I do think though it would be a real bummer if Racing Louisville doesn't make the playoffs because I want to see them in that spot.
Yeah, totally. I think I definitely like your point of some of those Racing Louisville players evolving into, this team has evolved quite a bit, as a squad, and Emma Sears specifically. I just keep thinking about that run she made against Portugal, like up the right-hand side, and kind of lasered a ball in. She kind of reminds me of like that relief pitcher that comes in and can pitch like 2 innings if you need and can throw 104 miles an hour and is a little reckless, but can also just strike out 6 batters in a row, like on a given, and not once a year, 4 or 5 times a year. Just a tremendously exciting player to watch, and a player that could flip a playoff game, just flat out. This isn't a player that, a lot of stuff. Like she could come in and flip a game upside down for sure if she gets a matchup that she can kind of feast on. So I'll be absolutely locked into that one. Hopefully, with Silky and Go, I don't want to see too many. too much craziness.
I mean, she
happening.
won't let him in. I mean, she's a beast. I mean, we anybody who hasn't checked out the Jordan Silkowitz interview on the Into the Channel podcast, again, totally free. We're not charging you anything for it. And what an intelligent, well-spoken, smart player to have on our podcast. I mean, she was extremely generous with her time. Like, seriously, you should check out what she said. Like, she had great things to say about like her approach to goal. She is like, it's cool to say. I feel like I'm just going to sound like an old guy at this point, but like Dino and I, we're turning 20 for the second time here and at different points of our lives. It's just cool to hear a young person talk about their goals and the things that they want to achieve with such clarity. And I feel like Jordan Silkowitz really has that in spades. And it was awesome to get the opportunity to chat with her. So, like Silky, she's very clearly the starting goalkeeper on the ITC 11. We got Silky in goal. We got Corey Dyke at left back. We have Asil Tufili as our number 10.
Yeah, let's go.
We have Leanne Sanderson as our number 9. Come on, dude. We're building a massive team over here.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, no, I totally agree with it. The Sikowitz interview, I learned so much. Listening to her talk.
She's a genius.
Like what was important. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's a football brain for sure. Also want to give a little, love to our UEFA Women's Champions League match day 2 recap, where we went through all 9 matchups. We looked ahead a little bit to that match day 3, some of those, tasty matchups that are right around the bend. And then, I don't know, we're halfway here. Let's do a little quick episode calendar. Next week, into the NWSL returns. We'll have match week 26 under our belt. We'll know the playoff matchups. We'll talk a little bit about that. We'll hit some end of season awards as well. Champions League coverage also returns next week. A couple fun shows planned there. Match day 3 for the Champions League right around the corner, November 11th, November 12th. So much good football. Is this the most loaded part of the football calendar? NWSL playoffs, a little international breaks sprinkled in, a little sprinkled in, and then we're kind of like right in the midst of Champions League phase. I mean, I'm not sure there's a better time of the calendar than where we're at right now.
I think you're about right. The Champions League coming back, NWSL playoffs, all kinds of other sports going on that we enjoy. Obviously, we've referenced the NBA. There's like a sports equinox happening where all the sports play on the same day. That's going to be pretty rad. Yeah, I mean, I maintain, I think October, November is the best time of the year in terms of the sports calendar. I think there's just like playoff baseball, playoff NWSL, men play football too. Like they're going to be doing some stuff. That's cool. And the UEFA Women's Champions League, everything's out here for us. I think it's great.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, men playing football. I've heard about that. I haven't checked it out. We'll see if we circle back to that. Well, I'll clear some time out and see what they're up to. All right, man. I think we did it. This has been another episode of Into the Channel. Thank you for watching, listening, hanging out with your boys. If you enjoyed the show or love men's football as much as we do, make sure you're kicking with us each and every single week. Like, subscribe, follow, or leave us a review. YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you like to watch or listen. If you want to support the show, patreon.com/into the channel. An excellent way to do that. Into the Channel merch. Maybe an even more excellent way to do that. Links to all of the above, much, much more in the description of this episode. And a big thank you to my co-host as well, Mr. Grant Engle, for always ready, always down to work out some of these machinations with me. I appreciate you, bro. It's been a great NWSL season. Still more left on the bone. I cannot wait to hit the stretch run, get to the final, lift the trophy, and maybe save a little gas in the tank for the Champions League. But either way, I appreciate you, bro.
Oh, there will be more than enough gas in the tank for the Champions League, my good man. The feeling is mutual. I wouldn't tackle this amazing part of the sports calendar with anybody else. And, the same goes for all of our pals out there on the internet. Thank you for continuing to drop knowledge, letting us know what we're missing, what we should be considering. We always appreciate that. And I would be remiss if we're going to say that men play football too. I think it's just probably worthy to note Brawn 3, Rangers 0 in the Europa League, the men's Europa League. What a victory for our pals in Norway. Shout out to all you. But you know what? I had to get a gratuitous Braun reference in there. Either way, thank you all for checking out the show, and we will see you all next time.